Hi everybody, this is Professor West. Welcome back to C# programming. This is the fourth in our series. Last week we talked about if statements and if-else statements. This week we're going to be talking about switch statements, also called case statements sometimes. We do them in this order because a switch statement is basically like a complex if statement. You're going to use several of the same parts. So let's discuss what we did last week first. We asked the user, we created a character, we called it CH. We asked the user to enter a character, and whatever they entered, we read it, so we accepted it. We made sure it was a character, and we assigned it to CH. That's our variable. Then in this if statement here, we check to make sure CH is upper, and if so, if that was true, then we outputted this line of code here. If it was false, we outputted this line of code. As I said before, we could, if we wanted to have multiple lines, we could add an open brace here and all the lines of code that we want, and then a close brace. I mean, I could have 100 or 1,000 lines of code in here if I wanted. It doesn't matter. Or I could just have one. This is important because when we get to switch statements, we're going to do them just a little bit differently. And let's do that now. Let me get rid of this. As I mentioned in the last series, I'm going to copy and paste some of the console write line statements and so forth, so that to save a little bit of time, but I'll still walk you through what I did. You can pause if you need to take more time to type, but this will help get us through a little quicker. So here I'm creating an integer. I'm going to call it number. I'm going to have a write line statement that says please enter 0 if you prefer milk and 1 if you prefer soda. You can have it say whatever you want. I'm just doing this so that I have a couple of numbers that I can use a switch statement for. We're going to accept whatever they type. We're going to parse it to an integer, turn it into an integer, and then assign it to number, because number is an integer. So the next thing we need to do is we need to have our switch statement. Switch, and then open parentheses, and then whatever variable we want to check. Now, this part is similar to an if statement, only notice there's not a condition in here. The next thing I'm going to do is do my braces. Oops. Shift, open my brace, and I'm going to make several lines here because remember, everything inside these braces is part of this switch statement now. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to use the word case, and then I'm going to just put a 0 and a colon. And what I'm telling the computer is, if number ever has the value of 0, do all these next lines until I tell it not to. So let's add another write line statement that says the number you entered is 0, here's your milk. Remember, I asked them if they want milk. And then I'm going to add a break statement. Now, notice that I had the red squigglies under case 0 until I put this break statement. When you're inside the case statement, you don't use these braces like we did for the switch statement and like we would do for the if statement. Inside the case, and I'll show you why in just a second, everything, if this is 0, it is going to do every single line of code until it comes to a break statement. So if I had another line of code here, let me add another console dot write line quote way to go. Both of those lines will run when I choose a 0. Let's test it and see. Please enter. Okay, 0. Hey, there we go. Both of them ran. Now, no matter how many lines of code I put here, they're all going to run until it hits this break statement. Let me go ahead and finish what I'm doing here, and then I'll show you some neat stuff with this. Case 1. Let's see. I'm going to change that up just a little bit. Here's your soda. So much better than typing it all over and over. So notice that it still has the red squigglies under here, reminding me that I haven't added the break statement yet. Now when I run it, please enter 0 if you want milk and 1 if you prefer soda. If I enter a 0, notice that it still only runs those same 2 lines and then stops. If I enter a 1, it skips all the ones from 0 and only runs this line. The number is 1, here's your soda. Now let me show you something interesting. If I did not have this break statement here, what did I tell you would happen a moment ago? It's going to automatically, it's still going to give me an error here. So I have to have this break statement. But on the other hand, I could have come up here, and this is where it gets fun, and I could have said case 2 and maybe case, I don't know, 7, depending on what options I give. Any of these would have caused these lines to run. Check this out. I didn't adjust my first line, but let's say I put a 7. Wow, here's your number 0. Here's your milk. Way to go. You'll have to adjust them some if you're going to have multiple ones here. It wouldn't just say here's 0. But the point is, like, let's say I wanted 1, 3, or 5 to do some kind of an error message. Well, my error message would go here, and my case 1, case 3, case 5 would all go here. And if I wanted, I don't know, all the even numbers or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. But my point is, if this one runs, then it's going to run this line, which is run this line, run this line. There we go, until it gets to the break. If this one doesn't run, it's still going to check this one. And if this one's true, then it runs all the way through to the break. If this one is true, it runs all the way through to the break. If none of those were true, then it comes down and it checks the next one. One more thing I can do, and I can have as many of these case statements as I want. I can have 100 of them listed here if I want. But if I do this, if I put default, colon, and then I do this, and console write line, let's put, oops, sorry, I did not understand that. So now what happens is it's going to check this one and this one. It's going to check each of these case statements. If none of them are true, it's automatically going to make the default true, so every line in my default is going to run. So watch this. Here I go. Let's see, 95 was not in there. Sorry, I did not understand that. But if I will go back and do a 2 now, oh, the number was 0, here's your milk, way to go. So basically, if I don't know if I've covered every option, it's always a good idea to put a default statement down here at the end. You never know. Somebody might put the weirdest thing. You may tell them enter any number less than 10, and you may have every single number less than 10 covered here, and some genius might enter 34 or whatever. You never know what somebody's going to do, or they may enter their name Bob or whatever. Having a default here gives you the option that says, hey, if anything was entered that I didn't understand, do this. And later we'll show you, you can have the default go back up and tell it to enter something again or whatever. We'll get to all that here pretty soon. We're going to start doing loops in the next segment, and that's when things get even more fun. So let's end this for now. Let me turn this into a comment, and I'll end the comment here. Oops. And let's try a new line. Let's try something new. Let's say let me create a string. I don't believe we've done strings yet. String, and I'm going to call it input. Why not? Now, a string is nothing more than a group of characters. So like your name, Bob, or your address or whatever, that's a string. I'm going to paste in a couple more write lines here. Console write line, are you enjoying these C# videos? Yes, no, or maybe. String input, console.readline, so it's going to hopefully read whatever here. Oops, I did not actually need. What I did there is called redefining. You'll get an error for that. I already created this variable called input, and then I tried to create it again. You can't do that. I could have left it here, or I could have, how I had it, and erased this line, or I could have done it this way. Either way is fine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have a switch statement, and then I'm going to put input dot to lower. Does this look familiar? We did this in the last segment, didn't we, with if statements? What does that do? That converts whatever I typed in to all lowercase letters. So if I wrote the word Bob, it would be little b, little o, and little b. If I wrote yes, which is here, it doesn't matter. I could have written it with a capital E or a capital S or whatever. It's all going to be lowercase from this point forward. So now I'm going to say my case statements, case yes. Notice I'm putting it in quotes. Why am I putting it in quotes? Because it's a string. In the previous one, I didn't put it in quotes. Here where I say case 1, because 1 is a number. I was saying if it is the number 1. Here I'm saying if the input, if the value of input is yes. And then let's see. Let's have console dot write line. Great. I'm glad you are enjoying it. Semicolon. And then let's do a break. No, let's do another case. You know what? Let's go ahead and do the break. And then we'll do case, maybe. Oops. Gotta have the colon outside the parentheses. And I'm going to paste my right line statement in there for you. And we'll have to have one for no, case, quote, no. And it has to have its own break. And then what do we say a while ago? You ask them to type the word yes, maybe, or no. But what if they misspell the word maybe? What if they put M-A-B-Y-E? You never know what somebody's going to do. So we'll do a default console dot write line. Incorrect input. We'll make it sound all official this time. Now, let's run it and see if it works. Oh, there were build errors. Why are there build errors? Because I put a colon at the end of that line instead of a semicolon. That's what happens when your fingers go faster than your brain. Oh, now there's more build errors. No, I don't want. Let's see. What else? Oh, I forgot the break statement. Okay. Are you enjoying these videos? Yes, no, or maybe. Let's do Y with a capital Y, E-S. Great, I'm glad you're enjoying it. And then let's try lowercase yes. Great, I'm glad you're enjoying it. Let's try, and you always want to test everything you do. M-A, let's see. A while ago I said, what if they misspell maybe? M-A-B-Y-E. Oh, there you go. Incorrect input. Let's try it correctly now. Maybe. Oh, maybe. Well, that's okay. It's not for everybody. And then lastly, you want to test the no. No, I'll have to make some changes. So, one last thing I would like to put. Sometimes you don't want to do the to lower. You don't have to put it there. But if I were to take it out, then it would only now recognize all lowercase. So what I would need to do is I would need to go in and add case yes, because that's the most obvious way that they might also write yes. But what if they write yes? And maybe now you can see why I did dot to lower to begin with, because I would need to do that for all of these. Are you enjoying the videos? Well, now what if they type yes? Great, I'm glad you're enjoying it. Or if they type just the capital Y. Oh, great, I'm glad you're enjoying it. But what if you have sticky fingers like I do sometimes and you accidentally do Y and an E but not an S? Oh, that's incorrect input, because capital Y, capital E, lowercase s was not something that we addressed here. That's part of the reason that we changed everything to lowercase, was just so that we didn't have to worry about little stuff like that. So anyway, it's stuff that you have to play around with as the programmer and figure out what's going to work best. You can always go in and test it and have friends try to break it. And by break it, I mean, try to come up with errors. And my friends and I did that a lot when I was first learning to program. You get a program that you think it's absolutely perfect, give it to your friend and say, here, have fun, try to break this. And it usually takes them about 30 seconds, and then they come up and say, okay, here's what I did, and it completely messed up. So luckily it won't actually mess up. It would just, give you the error message down here because we've set up a default. But anyway, guys, that's the basics of the switch statements. And I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you in the next segment.